Now with a reaction to Biden's war of weakness and the clown show in the swamp last night, let's talk with Kentucky Congressman James Comer. Congressman, welcome back. Preamble, we detailed that disgraceful speech from Biden last night. It was tone deaf, it was out of touch, it was incoherent, full of lies. They will go unchecked by the biased press, by the way. But I was astonished that Biden neglected to mention the U.S. citizens and vetted Afghan allies, thousands of them, he left behind in Afghanistan. What say you, Congressman?
Well, the speech was a big disappointment. The State of the Union is in disarray. Anyone who has a job and paying taxes and contributing to society knows that. So obviously, Biden's going to try to paint a picture, but it's an opportunity for Biden to talk about his agenda. And we would expect that he would learn from his mistakes over the first year and try to do like Bill Clinton did and pivot and try to govern more from the center. But obviously, he did not do that. There's nothing that he proposed that's going to do anything to help the average American. He didn't mention inflation. He didn't mention the border. And when you look at Afghanistan, can you imagine what good those weapons that we left behind in Afghanistan would be doing for the Ukrainians right now? Obviously, no mention of that.
Absolutely. You know, Congressman, American energy, we're now energy dependent again, courtesy of Mr. Biden and his Democrats. We're sending millions of dollars to Putin to finance his war against our allies, Ukraine. Oil crested $110 a barrel. Biden took American energy production off the table as a solution. During his speech, our own Eric Bolling said that oil rose $5 a barrel during Biden's speech. His ignorance is going to cost Americans plenty, and not just at the pump. Everything is going to be going up. Yes, Congressman?
Yes, it's so disappointing. He continues to pander to the purple-haired hippies in California with his liberal environmental policy that's affecting energy in America. We have so much potential in energy. We saw that under the Trump administration. And right off the bat on day one, Biden cancels the Keystone Pipeline. He bans drilling on federal lands. But what's not been reported is what his EPA is doing as we speak to offshore drillers and oil and gas producers right now. They're being hit with more regulations, more fines. They're doing anything they can to slow production. They've had hearings in Washington on my committee, on the House Oversight Committee, where the Democrats asked the oil CEOs, will you pledge to cut production? At the same time, they were asking OPEC to increase production. So Joe Biden had an opportunity last night to reverse course on energy policy in the name of national security, in the name of saving the economy, and he didn't. He continues to pander to the purple-haired hippies in California instead of the tax-paying working Americans. We have the potential to be energy independent. We shouldn't be buying any oil from Russia. None. Zero. We should be massively increasing our production in the United States. We have the capacity to do that, but unfortunately, Joe Biden's standing in the way.
Purple-haired hippies, that's the name of my new band. You know, I did a spit take when Biden called for border security last night that he made unsecure with his policies. And then he tried to erase years of the Democrat Party attacking the nation's cops by uttering the words that now the Democrats, well, that change of heart. Now they're favoring funding the cops. I didn't buy it, Congressman, but here's the question. Do you think Democrat voters bought it?
No, I don't think so. The ones that remember that line are the ones like Cori Bush and Ocasio-Cortez and Tlaib who have been banging the drums for defunding the police all along. You know, that's bad policy. The majority of the Democrat conference knows that's bad policy because they can comprehend a poll. So Joe Biden, that's the one issue he's kind of tried to pivot away from the socialist wing of the Democrat Party, but I don't think the American people are going to buy it.
Do me a favor. The next time you're talking with Congressman Kevin McCarthy, who, by the way, we've invited to come on this program and have a conversation with us, and we're hoping he will grant that request. Do you think America is doing all we can do to stop Putin's war? And I want you to put this in the context of who's leading on the world stage right now. We have a new axis of oppression, China, Russia, and Iran. And who is leading a coalition on the other side to oppose those dark forces? I don't see anyone. Congressman, do you?
No, there's a lack of leadership across the globe right now. You have the European leaders who have been woke for a long time. Now we have a woke president. They don't want to offend the extremists in the left wing of their parties. So there's a lack of leadership. The solution to the problems, especially with the Middle East and with Russia, is to become energy independent. Not only would that lessen our dependence on our adversaries, but it would create good paying jobs in the United States. They wouldn't have to keep printing money. In other words, we could actually have our economy stand on its own and people would thrive and prosper and we wouldn't have to buy any oil from Russia. The one thing Joe Biden hasn't done that he needs to do is we should cut off 100% of the purchases of oil from Russia, and he has not done that yet.
But Congressman, if our people are prosperous and thriving, what the hell are they going to need Democrats for? Right? Congressman James Comer, sir, I appreciate the time here on the Chris Salcedo Show. We'll talk again, sir.